Good morning, guys. Welcome to Drawing from Art History with me, your host and drawer, David Casson. My dogs are going crazy today. I'm feeling a little under the weather and have a little bit of a cough, chest cough, so I'm taking some cough medicine, but it's going to be a great day. Today we're going to be drawing Anthony van Dyck's portrait of Cornelis van der Geest, I think his name is. Cornelis van der Geest. Geest. If you guys are from Belgium and you hear that I pronounce something incorrectly, please tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear it because I want to learn just as much as everybody else. Awesome. So today's mug is in honor of tomorrow's football game. I am a big Philadelphia Eagles fan, having grown up there where my dad retired in South Jersey, grew up outside Philly, and then went to college at Syracuse University with one of my favorite quarterbacks and players, Donovan McNabb, who went to Syracuse and then also became the Eagles quarterback. So that's a quick note on the mug for today. So let's talk about Anthony van Dyck. Crazy, right? How some of my favorite artists died so young. I think he died at 42 years old. He was born, like I said before, he was born in Belgium, in Antwerp, Belgium. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Belgium. You should go. It's so beautiful. Back in 2010, I taught a workshop there for a month. I'm sure some people maybe remember that. I've reconnected with some of the students that studied with me out there. Did an entire month-long drawing and painting just on one painting, and it was an incredible experience. And we were in a small town called Portuguese. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Actually, let me open up the comments. It's been a crazy morning. Hey guys, how's it going? Oh, there's people. Good morning, Renee and Renola and Rob. Good to see familiar faces. Yeah, so I'm traveling tomorrow to Fort Worth to teach a drawing from the live model workshop for 3 days in the Fort Worth, Dallas area. And so I've been kind of packing, getting everything done for that. And yeah, so a lot going on. So let's talk about Van Dyck, and I will bring up my iPad screen. Close that. Awesome. So I tried a different background here. So I've been taking photos of different colored prepared surfaces that I'm using for oil paints, using different transparencies, and I'm going to be trying them out on the iPad to paint on top of, as if I was, instead of having a digital canvas that's like completely blank, I want to have some texture and color. And so I thought it'd be cool to try it out here with a drawing, but in the background, I'm also learning how to kind of digitally paint better to maybe do some demos that way in the future. And so that is on one layer. My one layer is my inserted image. You guys see that? That is my texture. And then I have the Van Dyck, which I'm going to draw side by side with the portrait of Cornelius over here. We're going to be good friends with Cornelius. And then I'm going to put a new layer here. Just so I'm going to I've worked pretty much on only one layer. And feel free to ask questions, guys. I don't know if you guys want to see me in here. Let me put a little post-it note. Post-it size so you guys can see. I just, gesticulate a lot as I talk. So we're going to try to go a little hour and a half. We'll see how it goes. Again, I'm not feeling 100%, but I'm excited to draw. So it all works out. And this will help me feel better, definitely. Rob says, I've started drawing and painting again. I'm drawing an elephant in charcoal for my first competition. That's awesome. There's so many great art prizes out there. And I think if you're at any level, because we're all on the same journey to become the artist that we want to be, that you should apply for every art competition there is, because you never know when your certain style is going to gel with a judge and you're going to get in. So if you're in Britain, I would definitely enter the Herbert Freehills. It used to be called the BP Portrait Awards. I entered that for a few years in a row and came up once I got shortlisted once, which was pretty incredible, for painting my mom. Okay, so let's talk about Cornelius here. And on my line, so how I usually start, haven't changed. I start with a Derwent pencil for my drawing instrument or paintbrush up here, and then I used an eraser, which is also a Derwent. Keeps it easy. So, and I'm going to just use black today as my color. So it looks a little bit like charcoal. So I've drawn this before on the channel, and it's just one of my favorite portraits. And this portrait actually is in the National Gallery in London, actually right on Trafalgar Square, which I think is free all the time, right, Rob? If I'm not mistaken, I think you can just walk in anytime. I remember just walking in and walking out, and just, it's got such an amazing collection. They have Da Vinci drawings in there that are absolutely stunning. And this portrait is life-size, and it's tiny. My computer's going crazy here. So yeah, so I definitely recommend you guys go visit this portrait and maybe do some sketches of it. Cool, so this is a little bit of a darker background than I usually start with, so hopefully you guys will be able to see my lines here. So we start with figuring out where the top of the head is, where the chin is, right? And that's about here. And then we kind of box things in, right? We have our CAM system, C-A-M, which basically stands for compose. We want to put him on the panel here so he's not going to fall off or grow on us, right? So C-A-M, CAM, compose. And so I just use these, again, long lines that are kind of expressive in the beginning to just place the composition of where he is on our board here, where the collar is, because it's giant. The collar is a giant piece of this drawing and painting. Hey, how's it going? Good morning, everybody. Thanks, guys, for joining me. Hopefully you guys have your coffee. Again, I have my coffee right here with my Philadelphia Eagles cup. I'm a big fan. They won the Super Bowl last year. Well, this year. And I'm excited. They play on Thursday night in Philadelphia, but it's a Thursday night game. They play our biggest rival, which is the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm going to be actually in Dallas for that game, which is kind of odd. So I don't know if I'm going to wear Eagles green and get beat up. Anyway, I fly in tomorrow, and I'm not teaching until Friday. And so I'm going to find a like an outdoor bar to hang out and watch the game. I know, too much about me. So we have our shapes, right? Our main shape here, the head, and our collar. So I feel like it's composed pretty well here. And we want to think now. He's not even Italian like Bernini. We want to think now about where the eyes are sitting within our composition. Let me get this edge here too. Oops, a little too dark. Cool. So we want to kind of build out again from the center point out now. So we start with our envelope, right? Where we've enveloped where the top of the head is, where the chin is. Now we want to think about what's going on in the inside, right? So we want to think about the eyes, where the anchor point is of the orbital cavities, right? And in the orbital cavities, I like to include most of the resting tension lines underneath the eyes as well. Think about where the center point is within the shape here, again, using these long lines. And we think about, I'm going to come in here. Hopefully, do you guys like the new background? I'm not sure if I'm digging it quite yet. The new painted panel. This is actually the panel I'm going to be using for my demo in Fort Worth on Friday. I decided to prep a panel, and I'm getting high-res photos of those panels as I prep them to do digital painting. Think about digital art and stuff with having those bases as different layers, as we talked about before. Thinking about this edge here. This comes in and over. And now we have our kind of structure in for our orbital cavities, right? Where our eyes are going to be. Just thinking about that space, thinking about the space between the nose right in here. Rob says sometimes it's free, but sometimes they have special show. Oh, I got you. So it's like 15 quid. See what I did there? 15 pounds to go. That's worth it. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, so he did. Rob says that he painted this portrait when he was like, I thought 20, yeah, when he was only 22 years old, which is insane, right? That Van Dyck painted this that young. I'm gonna move my stuff around here on my computer. I have my list of facts. So he was actually an apprentice to another great painter we all know and love is Peter Rubens, who is actually at the time the most famous portrait painter in actually the most famous in all of Belgium at the time. There we go. This is better. Cool. Okay, so then now we start to measure out. We have a good sense of where our eyes are. I'm going to erase my little doodle up here. Oops, go all the way up. And now I'm going to come in and think about the length of the nose, right? So, yeah, so he was the chief assistant, actually. He started out as a pupil, a student, and then he became the chief assistant for Rubens. And Rubens even referred to him actually as his best pupil. So we come in here from the eyes. I love that he was supportive of his student. I've had teachers not be supportive of me after I branched off and became a painter. So I try to be supportive of all my students. Okay, so then we're measuring out now. So thinking about the Van Dyck Z, right, which we're using a Van Dyck here, so why not talk about the Van Dyck Z? Corner of the eye, orbital cavity here, right, this distance from here to here, and then the distance from the length of the nose. So a length of the nose is about here. So that is our length and our underplane here. Very, very simplified, right? And it forms a Z. So we have our top of our Z here. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, unfortunately. Let me see if I can make it bigger. I have to hold my pencil in a weird way to make it bigger. From there to there, down the length of the nose. And I don't worry about this area right here of the nose, that little divot. I'm just simplifying that entire shape across. This is the shadow side underneath the nose. I call the underplane of the nose because that's under this plane that's getting light. So the light plane hits here, and then they have the underplane, which is a form shadow moving into a cast shadow. So form shadow is when an object's moving away from the light, but then a cast shadow is when you have an object obscuring the light. And so within the portrait, you have two main areas where you have a cast shadow and a form shadow where they meet, or where the form shadow pulls into and then is into the cast shadow. And that's on the tip of the nose and usually on the chin. So you want to be careful of those areas just to understand that the form shadow on the top of that plane really pertains to the rules that happen with form shadows as they turn. And then that shadow turns into a cast shadow where the farther edge right through here will be softer, but then get harder the closer it is to the object that's casting that shadow. So, and then here's form, right? So form shadow through here, which moves into that cast shadow. Hope you guys can see that. Cool. It's important to understand these things. I have actually a document over on Patreon that talks all about reversal, form shadows, cast shadows. That's free to download for the Patreon folks who are amazing. I want to thank all the Patreon folks again. This comes over. They always get I send them the notification that I'm going live 30 minutes before I do on these classes. I'm not sure if you guys, if you subscribe and you have the bell notifications on YouTube, I guess you get that as well. Still figuring out this idea of YouTube. So far, it's been such a great way to make content and then really interact with folks on the Patreon page after I make the content. Cool, we got the cast shadow there under the nose a little bit, thinking about how this kind of flows over that edge. Make sure I'm getting all the questions. Awesome. If you guys have any questions, again, feel free to ask. What's going on here? The distance. This is really beautiful how this part of the brow turns into the upper lid of the eye. Now, Van Dyck, to his credit, thinking about where the ear comes across here, excuse me, became one of the greatest painters, portrait painters, actually, of the 17th century, which makes sense. If he did this at 22 years old, right? He was pretty incredible. And I just love saying of Cornelius here, Cornelis van der Geest. But his fame actually rivaled his teacher, Anthony Van Dyck, Rubens. In some cases, they actually I feel like sometimes I feel the art from the two of them have been, because of the time period being so similar, clothing, everything, and also one being a student of the other, they probably even get mislabeled. Like maybe this was labeled as a Rubens at one point. I'm not sure if that's true. I'll have to check that out. So I can tell you exactly how old he was when he painted this. Rob's like, he's guessing, but it was when he was really, really young. I think I read that he when he was like 20 or 21 or something. So he joined the Guild of St. Luke's at 19 years old. So the Guild of St. Luke's is really cool because I'm not sure. I think there's a store I think called St. Luke's in Melbourne, Australia. And the cool thing about the Guild of St. Luke's being a guild of painters, I think it was also the guild for apothecaries and surgeons, I believe, or doctors. I could be totally wrong on that, but definitely look that up. I think, and what it was that, so when you're a painter, you get your pigments from apothecaries back then, right? People that would grind pigments, and if you weren't doing it yourself, or they would have all the special ingredients for different paints. And so it's kind of neat that they shared the same guild. I think I read that when I was reading a book on Rembrandt at one point. They talked about that. And I think the same would hold true for Belgium because it's not far from Holland. Rob has a question. If you were working in real charcoal, would you still block in the eye sockets like this and lighten bits as you need? Yes. I do the exact same sort of method in charcoal. I try to mimic my process almost exactly, except I have an undo button here, which I use every now and then. Then I use just an eraser, but I try to simplify everything in the very beginning. I have a video on, it's got Sargent, I think, on the cover of the thumbnail, and it's me doing super basic block-ins for Sargent. And I have within the basic block-ins, I made these really high contrast notans of some of my favorite paintings, and I take a whole bunch of newsprint and I draw them every now and then. I'll just put them on I have a magnetic wall in the studio where I can just take the print out and put that next to my drawing board, and I can do 1-to-1 site size practice. And so I do a demonstration of that in my studio and talk about the block-in and what I'm thinking about. It's such a great, useful tool to keep things so simplified. And Matt says, if only charcoal had an undo button. If only life had an undo button. Right? I think that, there's a quote or something that painting is or living life is the art of something without an eraser or something, or not having an eraser. I gotta find that. Sorry, I'm like a little loopy today. I woke up, I had to take NyQuil last night, and that like knocks me out, and I'm never great in the mornings. But we're gonna do a great sketch here, right? And hopefully learn so much about Van Dyck. So let's see. And he was also, what's really cool is I always am interested in artists that travel outside of their own home country. And I guess Belgium's not far from France, obviously, in the south, and then not far from Holland, which is in north of it, the borders. But he also went to England, actually, and he was invited by King Charles I, who really loved his paintings. And he was actually the principal court painter for the British royalty there. And he painted the king and queen, and in pretty iconic ways. And his style, which is really cool, and I love this idea, is that his style really influenced British painters at the time. I guess you can kind of see that in Gainsborough and those guys, right? Which in turn actually influenced John Singleton Copley in America, right? Who was pretty much like the one of the first talented or representational painters in the Americas, in the United States, along with like Charles Wilson Peale, Rembrandt Peale, Raphael Peale, and those guys, which were all again from the Philadelphia area. Go Philly! I grew up outside Philly, and just going to those museums like the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, where Thomas Eakins taught. I'm just the amazing contribution of Philadelphia and the artists there are just numerous for me. My biggest influences, like Robert Henry lived there, John Sloan and the Ashcan School started in Philadelphia with William Glackens and George Lukes and all those guys. And John Singleton Copley. I'm not sure if he was based out of Philadelphia, though. I know Charles Wilson Peale was, and that he set up the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. And he's pretty epic. You're so fast at blocking in. This is what you have done. Would take me hours. This is not a great block in. But thanks. Measuring out spaces here. I have a new video on painting block-ins. I'm actually thinking about trying to do an alla prima painting a week in my studio. I painted one of my painting heroes, Burton Silverman, and I posted it, I think, a few days ago. And he's pretty incredible. I want to take the painting further. And some people are telling me not to, that I should leave it the way it is, which is okay. There's so many edges I want to fix, and I can really dive into the painting a little bit better in my own temperament. That's one thing we want to always do, is to play towards our temperament as painters, where if you do like things that are a little tighter in areas but looser in areas, play to that. That's how you gain your voice as an artist, right? So that's something I'm working on. I'm going to slide this up. Oh, that's much better. It's easier to draw this way. Yeah, so no, I'm also doing a video I'm going to film later today, if I'm feeling up for it. I think I am. Is 3 tips on finding your voice as a painter. Because people are always like, how do you know what to paint, or such and such? And so I think it would be, I wrote out kind of a script of things that I found very useful starting out as a painter, that I think would be great to share. So I'm going to do maybe like just a 10-minute quick video that I'm going to probably launch on Friday for that. And getting these ideas again from folks on Patreon. So if you do like this content and you want to help support the channel, you can support the channel for free, which is awesome, with a comment or a like on this video. I appreciate it. Ask a question, make a criticism. All of it helps the algorithm. No matter what you say, it's awesome. And a like and a subscribe is really incredible. I love to, one of my goals, because I game everything. I'm like, if I'm going to I want to finish this by this point, I would love to have, I don't think I'm ever going to hit 100,000, but aiming for 70,000 probably by the end of the year subscribers on here, which is what they call on YouTube an ego metric. And it was just something kind of cool. It's not, you don't make any more money, I don't think, from 60 versus 70,000 subscribers, but I think it would be kind of cool to hit that mark. We'll see. And I've been doing the research on the back end of the YouTube, and this is one of the things, doing lives get suppressed the most on YouTube. And so I appreciate you guys being here. They don't get as many hits, likes, shares, or anything. And whoever watches live, all that stuff gets erased, and then it starts back in 12 hours or something like that to reverts back to what the actual thing is. And you guys are you tune in for drawing and you learn about YouTube. So he also, this guy, pretty, and you can kind of see the influence, but he was also in England, but he also traveled to Italy, right? So he spent several years in Italy and hung out in Genoa, which is a great town. If anyone knows anything about, Genoa is right near Verona, right? Which is like the Romeo and Juliet town, where I think they have the balcony for Romeo and Juliet. But Genoa, which is on the, which isn't that far, I guess, from the mainland part of Italy, because that's what the upper west side of Italy, Genoa. But he painted a lot of wealthy aristocrats from that part of Italy, which is kind of neat. It's really funny to see. So we were just in the south of France, and you could see how close areas were I was like, we could just drive to Barcelona in like 5 or 6 hours. We were in the south of France. And I'm like, that's amazing. Why do we think that we have to fly everywhere? I guess because being in America, we don't really know the geography so much of how close Europe is. And I don't study a lot of world. I guess some people who do are the people who study world wars and World War II and III and stuff like that. 3, that's coming soon, I guess. Let's get in some of these eyes in here. Get this underplane here, the eye. Really love that loop in there. We're going to jump across the nose to right over here. Get that in there. There's a little bit of light that passes through from this edge here, underplane of the eye, the canthus, which is picking up light right through there. And let's put in an estimation on where the eyeball will be, the iris. Match that with our other iris. Basically judging that space of the sclera right there, which is the white of the eyes. Space between here. People are going to say, why such a long face, Cornelius? Because the length of that nose is pretty bodacious here. Top of the wing of the nostril. This filters over. It's got this crazy cool sharp edge right there. And you get that kind of V shape for the Cupid's bow on the lips. That pillows forward on the lips. And we can see the texture of the beard, how that kind of comes around. This is fun. Doing a painting is, I think, a little bit more fun to draw than, well, I don't know, a sculpture. But the sculptures are fun in a different way. I feel like the paintings have just a little bit more character, a little bit more life to them. Maybe because they're in full color versus the sculptures, which are like white and cold, like the marble sculptures of Bernini that I've been studying lately. And honestly, this Wednesday session is really just for me to study my favorite paintings and talk about them learn the history. Actually, I study up a little bit of the history of everybody as I work on these, so I can share facts with you guys. It's kind of neat. Like another fact about Van Dyck was that he was actually knighted by King Charles I in 1632, and from there he kind of just had wealth and status, which is kind of nice for an artist. Doesn't happen often, you know. But the thing that really is disappointing is that, so he did this portrait in his early 20s, but he died when he was only 42. So I can't imagine. It's like that. I always think about artists that die early, like there's that Hamilton song, like, why do you, like, he writes like he's running out of time. I wonder if he felt that way within painting. I guess maybe not. Thinking about the collar. These shapes are really interesting in here. Get a little expression in here. Rob asks, I can't paint alla prima because I can't control paint. I've always have to let it dry in layers. It's embarrassing. I'm right there with you. It's hard to control wet into wet paint. I think that it's just something that you get with age and practice. You can practice, you just try a lot more of it. That's what I'm trying to do. I think I'm always working. It's funny, when I teach and I critique like works, it's always based off their stuff that I'm working on in my studio. So if I'm having a hard time with edges or something like that, of that nature, that's kind of what I teach to, is what I'm working on in my own studio. And so for me, I don't think I'm very good at alla prima. I think I'm definitely better at long form painting and also letting my edges dry. I like having a dried painting to build fresher color on top of. And so by using the YouTube channel as my excuse to do an alla prima painting per week, I think it would be something that could be cool, you know? So again, I'm lucky to have an excuse to be able to do stuff, which, if you have time, I recommend you do the same, you know? Try to do an alla prima a week. My screen keeps falling here. These magnetic. I just bought a new Paperlight screen. Let me see if I think I have it over here. This is something I recommend, guys, real quick. I'm not paid at all. I just bought these off of Amazon. Magnetic drawing screen protectors. Because I draw on it, it gets really dirty and gross. I actually use my iPad for almost everything. When I'm working out, I use the iPad and I take off the screen so that it's not all crummy. But my screen here, this is the old one I'm using, is old. So let's put a background in on this sketch right now and see how that goes. Let me quickly get in. I just want to find these edges a little bit better up here at the top. Cool. Okay. I'm going to do this on a separate layer. And I'm taking the opacity up there. And I'm using the side of the brush. Oh, you guys can't see me. Jeez. The side of the brush, the Apple Pencil. And just coming across the whole thing here because it needs to go darker. Oops. I ran over into the size thing. And I'm just doing all of this dark. I'm making it all dark, even a little bit on this side here for the thumbnail. Okay, now I'm going to go even darker. Just really pushing our value here. Get up to the collar. This gets darker, this gets darker. Awesome. So now what we can do is we're going to take down the opacity on that just a little bit, and we're going to carve him out with the eraser on this layer. Right? So we get 100%. Interesting. I don't know if I'm in love with the background color yet. Get the collar in here. Check and see question. I'm hoping to do a series of charcoal drawings. I'm hoping to do some big drawings, maybe 50 by 40 inches possible. Can you recommend a paper? You want something that comes on rolls. You want them to be toned. My toned paper that I used to use is kind of discontinued, but you might be able to find it in England. It's discontinued here in the States, at least. Yeah, I'm not loving that. Like half my side is kind of orange here, then there's blue streaks. That's because of the get the ear in here to simplify. Okay, now we're going to take this and pull it back to dark. See how it looks. I didn't pull it all the way. Let's do all the way. Why not? Yeah, I don't know much about if charcoal even comes in that format. So we're going to come in now, and I'm actually going to erase a little bit more from this layer. And actually take it down just a little bit so I can see my drawing from before. Yeah, but you need to find paper that's in a roll that is at least 40, maybe, I don't know, 48, I don't know, maybe pieces together. I wish I had more information for you. I don't do anything. I don't do big drawings at all. My drawings are usually just probably portrait size. Maybe 30 by 40 is the largest. I know. What good am I? Sorry, man. Sanded paper. I haven't tried sanded paper yet. I'm excited. I'm going to be demoing at the iApps International Pastel show, because it's here in Albuquerque, and I usually stop by every year. So they asked me if I would demo in 2026, so next year, and I'm excited about that. And I know that they have a lot of dealers in the area. They have a lot of different sanded papers. I've never tried one though. Okay, so we're going to simplify his portrait now with a little bit of value. The underplane this gets darker. Pull in the shadow shapes for the eyes a little bit. This area gets a little bit more shadowed. The cheek. The ear. Nothing's as white as that collar though. That collar is ridiculously white. I'm still on that layer with the value. There's a little bit of value through here. I love seeing the strokes, not the band, the strokes in the painting. I guess the band's not bad. Let's really define those eyes here. That comes over. Hope you guys can see it pretty well. I'm actually gonna bring these both down use the eraser to, again, soften up edges. Can you guys see? I do bring the size of the painting down like this so that I can see values and where areas are too dark, like this area underneath the eye here is too dark. And so it helps me to see the values a little bit better when I'm farther back. And I'm trying to think perceptually now, where I'm just thinking this value looks lighter or darker than this. Perceptually, which basically just stands, I'm really looking to see what's going on. I'm not caring about anatomy or anything like that, just how do these values organize with each other. See a little highlight on that lip. And this gets a little darker, this underplane. Maybe not that dark. So this guy, he was a wealthy spice merchant, Geest, Cornelis here. Be interesting to live at that time period, I guess. All like the, especially Holland, Belgium, they were all like these mercantile towns back in the day. This gets a little bit darker through here. This is that shadow under the ear. It'd be fun to be a painter at that time. I can't imagine being knighted as a painter. I think that still happens. I wonder if I have a friend Jonathan Yo who just painted the king. And I wonder if he's knighted. I bet he's probably been knighted. Awesome. Hopefully people are still watching. We got Rob here. If there's any other questions at all, please hit me up. Having some coffee. So he died at 42, Anthony Van Dyck, not Cornelius here. I don't know much about Cornelius. Let me get that sense of light right there on that far zygomatic arch. And then this cheekbone right through here. It's such a long, I'm gonna soften up this edge with that eraser. Into that dark. This is so light. I'm actually probably going to go in maybe with a white pencil here and see what I can do with that to pump up some of the value, because the paper I'm using is actually pretty dark. How are we doing on time? So we're 43 minutes in. Probably going to go a little over an hour today for episode 6 of Drawing from Art History. Which is also just hang out, talk about art, Q&A. For me, painting is very much about, I talk about this in the Alla Prima video, emotional responses. I mean, I'm like, ooh, I see that light. Ooh, this is too dark. Or this should be darker, but I like that line. Let's erase these construction lines a little bit and make them into forms. Because we kind of start with the construction, right? Composing everything, and then we start to move into measuring, anchoring our eyes, measuring, and then everything from there is triangulating, softening edges, push and pull between light and dark, and trying to kill these lines so that these lines that were our initial block-ins become, we cross contour over top of them so that they go away and they turn one border of a form into another border of a form. And then we start to get a painting or drawing that looks more representational, more realistic of what we see in real life. Such a fun gig. Do you have a checklist for your art, such as proportions, values, edges, that sort of thing? I don't really. I mean, my checklist, I guess, is the cam thing. Is I compose it, and then I anchor the eyes, and then I measure out from there. And it's kind of the same method that I use pretty much all the time. So now I'm going to come in with white chalk on top of here. Maybe a different layer. Let's try this out. Oh, that's cool. Okay. Bring some more light into the painting. Now I'm just kind of scrubbing it in the beginning. There's a little bit of light through here. It's so funny. I'm going to post later on my Patreon page the drawing I did from this actual painting in the National Gallery. I have to find it, but I'm going to post the actual charcoal drawing. I wonder if I even have that sketchbook floating around over here. I don't know if I do. I took a sketchbook, a moleskin, and took out the paper from the moleskin and put in my own paper that I liked to use, which is a gray paper for sketching. And so it was, I just did sketches all over the place, all over Italy, England. I remember I drew a Van Dyck self-portrait. That's in the National Portrait Gallery, right around the corner from the National Gallery. Just making sure I got your questions. Now coming in with the white again, just over top. The texture in the forehead is amazing. I'm squinting now and I see this all can go lighter through here, through the face, in the nose, and the cheeks. I want to kind of key things into something now though. I want to key the collar. Kind of tap in the screen. In some of these kind of interesting kind of highlight areas. Just popping them in for the eyes for fun. This comes up, over. I asked, do you ever do commission portraits? Do you feel pressure to flatter your subjects? That's an interesting question. I'm actually working on a portrait right now of an amazing woman from Pittsburgh. And I'm not really flattering her all that much. Maybe a little bit. She's probably like a few years older than me. And just kind of softening some edges, I guess. The photos just tend to heighten everything, especially like if you take photos the way I do with a single light source. And so it's like not really flattering. The lighting's not flattering. And so you kind of work around fixing the lighting. It's funny, that's what I'm painting on that later today, hoping to kind of get that not finished off, but blocked in really well for before I leave You guys are telling me my checklist. I have checklists, but it's more like stuff I have to do before I leave. Okay, so let's key in on some of the what's I'm gonna call it, the collar here. I'm gonna bring up the image. Yeah, I'm constantly working on like dozens of different projects in the studio. I'm having fun. I'm drawing these. I'm in a Western show in Austin in on the 10th or 11th of this month. And for fun, I'm just drawing cowboys on horseback with a brush pen, which has been kind of fun to play around with. And so it's really fun. I just brought up the image on my computer here in black and white. And it's kind of interesting to see the value structure in black and white versus color. Let me bring that on the screen. I think you guys will find this interesting. That was on desktop. Computer. Oh, it's a PSD. I wonder if I can bring it in as a PSD. Nope. Let me do a screenshot. 1 second. I think it's actually really informative to see. It's fun to draw it from the color that it is, but it's also interesting to understand the value transitions and everything based after what it looks like in black and white. Which when I usually draw studies, it's from the black and white. And that's interesting because when you add color, colors can help you draw something even better than just drawing something in black and white, because you can have different colors that have the same value that get lost in black and white that you'll see when it's in full color. So here's the black and white of him right here. And apologize for the dogs. And so I can see I'm getting way too, if I were to draw from that right now, that might be interesting. Because now I can see, let me leave that up for a little bit. And I'm going to draw from my screen because that's not on the iPad. iPad, I have the colored version right here. But it's interesting to see the black and white, how much lighter I should go in areas like the eyes. Eye sockets are a lot lighter. Let me try that real quick. With the white chalk again. Like this whole eye can go lighter. And just bringing up the value. Playing up that cheek too much. Hopefully you guys, my dogs aren't too loud. This whole area can be lighter. And Q, let's go really light in the collar. Just simplifying, almost just coloring in some of the value here. And that bleeds into the ear a little bit here. Got the specular highlight on the nose. a little bit better. Getting some more light in the forehead. Again, simplify. I'm going to take this white chalk again and just go over the entire thing. Simplify all of it lighter, and then pull in the darks. This brow right here. Yeah, it has such a compressed value range. Great point. It's a lot lighter than we think. Come in here. As I squint, I notice, so I'm squinting at the screen a lot to see that some of these areas are just way too, it's funny, it's like drawing from what's on the screen on the computer versus in my lap. Hey, the field, how's it going? That's awesome. So he's saying that the Elastic X, I think I saw your comment, Professor X, earlier today. That was awesome. And the Van Dyke Z, all these things are helpful, and they become intuitive over time. You just kind of, they're things that you see, you'll see them in everybody. And you'll start to see how these shapes kind of shift based on someone's posture or their own personal shapes to their bodies or faces and everything. And they're kind of almost guideposts to being able to adjust things. Comfort zones within drawing, because drawing can be tough. So I'm going to come in and shape up. Now I'm going to come in with some dark chalk. I was using white for there. I'm going to come in and start to redraw a little bit from the inside out here. So I'm going to zoom in on the face. Now I know he's in the way now. Put him in the corner. So his eyes are super light and scary looking right now. I'm going to bring up on my computer screen here. Hopefully I can still see the questions. Awesome. So let's bring back some of the shadows. I'm going to bring my computer closer. I used to do printouts for this, but I couldn't get the printout to go to the size that I wanted. And so I've been using the computer to zoom in. This is really beautiful. This turn of that eye. Are we about an hour in yet? Let me check. Exactly an hour almost. And then we have this underplane here. Let's knock in the whole pupil. That dark. There's a little bit of light on that side as the light's reflecting through because of the pupil. This comes over. This is so amazing. This is the fun stuff. Let's jump over to the other eye. And we got this curve here. And there's this down slope into the tear duct. It's definitely lawn day. Wednesdays are lawn day here in New Mexico. All I hear is my neighbor's weed whacker. Get that iris in there, which kind of bleeds into the top a little bit. This gets a little darker. The shadow above this part of the eye. And then I'm squinting. We have this light pattern through here, shadow pattern, sorry, through here. The distance between here and here looks pretty good. There's this loop here, and then a loop here. Just checking out to see what it looks like next to the full version. This pulls forward and gets a little darker. See, I'm missing some questions here, guys. Sorry. I have bad internet. Keep getting... Oh no! The circle of death. So I know that you're on a Macintosh then. This comes over, down, restructuring the nose a little bit here. And then the shadow wedges that way, and then the beard is so cool how it kind of comes in behind here and straight up. And we got that cast shadow. And I'm gonna put that divot in the oh, it's really interesting. I'm going to be using white now instead of the eraser. Back and forth between white and dark on the Derwent. Because there's that little divot on the nose. Remember I told you guys to ignore that for the Van Dyke Z on Van Dyke. Pulling these rivers of value through. This is a little bit super light up against this edge here. One thing I'm learning from doing these studies of old masters' pieces is that this is hard. Drawing. These guys knew what they were doing, for sure. Go back to black. Like holding up my iPad, let's do a zoom back side to side. Getting there, starting to look a little bit like each other. Thinking about, this gets a little bit, I wonder if I should combine the two. Let's do it. This might be a bad idea. That's why I couldn't erase away a little bit of that part of the nose. Because it goes down to, actually gets darker by using the eraser. Gets a little lighter through here. The thing is also, this is such like a tease. The things that I'm starting to really see that I want to capture within here, like these little subtle nuances of like this passage of light on the upper eye. I don't know if I'll have time to get really into that depth. So are you guys both in the UK? The field? What is your name, the field? So that I can hopefully address you better, unless you don't want to tell me your first name. Hey Lucy, how's it going? What is up with the UK? Seeing some hair over here. And you guys definitely go visit this painting. And I'm like a big fan now of Charles I, as long as he didn't do any weird, he probably did, weird colonizing and weird stuff. He probably did. But knighted one of my favorite painters from Belgium. I have a lot of British fans. I love England. I did apply to that Freehills show 2 years ago. Self-portrait. I got past the online entry, and it was a self-portrait I did, and then it didn't get in. And that's the tough thing, man, is I think it costs like $700 or $800 to ship a painting and you don't get in. But it used to be they didn't have the online show and you just ship it and they judge it from the actual pieces. That's how I got in with a painting of my mom. Geez, 10 years ago now. It's been 10 years. That's so funny. I think we're watching a series on TV called Hostage, and it takes place in the UK. And I was talking to my stepson now, is that he just left for boarding school and just started boarding school. Literally, they moved in like yesterday. And I guess one of the students is from England or whatever, and my wife did like a British accent or whatever, and she's like, David, can you do a British accent? I'm like, I'll try. No, it was horrible. I'm not even going to attempt. Mine sounded more Australian. I wish, because one of my actually, if you guys are on, I know the field's on Patreon. Thanks for increasing the whatchamacallit too, the support, man. That's awesome. I appreciate it. I posted a video, and I'm gonna do a YouTube eventually because I gotta fix some of it and I gotta edit it. A buddy of mine who lives in the UK, who's an expert chemist in oil paints, and he's been the moderator on like forums forever, before Facebook and everything, Facebook groups and whatever. And that's how I know him from back then. But we sat down and we talked about oil paint, what's toxic, not like what's toxic, but how does alkyd dryers affect oils, and just all the questions that I had for oil paint. What makes something archival, fat over lean, and we did a whole discussion. I posted the raw discussion unedited over on Patreon. And it just reminds me that the way he says everything with his British accent just sounds so much cooler than if I were to repeat it. Hey Nell, how's it going? Oh, cool. Yeah, these are a lot of fun. The iPad is pretty incredible. It's stormy in Essex. That sounds like a song, Lucy. I'm gonna come here. I want to make the eye a little bit darker even. As I squint at both of them, I'm like, maybe just a little bit darker. I'm gonna throw those cool highlights in. Hopefully it'll start to, I feel like he needs a little bit more lid. Maybe that's too dark. But I do like that. Right there. I gotta redraw that lid. I'm gonna get those highlights in the eyes. It's like right measuring right about there. And even the sclera is a little bit lighter because we have some of the texture of the paint coming through, which is hitting the light, which is really nice. This little ledge here on the canthus is a little lighter. And here's his tear duct, which just gets all lighter through here. Hope you guys can see on the screen. I'm not in the way. Taking down the opacity just to glaze it a little bit lighter. I squint. You hear me tapping on my screen. That's it, ASMR. ASMR? I can't do a British accent. I wonder if they ever got mustard on their puffy things. LOL. Oh, on the on the collars. My wife wants to buy a collar and she wants to do a painting of me in one, which would be kind of funny. My wife's an amazing artist, Shayna Levinson. Check out her stuff. But I think it'd be really funny to paint each other Victorian style, 17th century. I was thinking that it might be cool to live at that time period, but then also like this guy we've been learning about died at freaking 42. I mean, that means I'd be dead already. I'm 48 now. Judging the space now from here to here, there's a little bit of light, which could be texture on the actual painting itself when it got photographed. But all these little highlight bits, and I'm gonna glaze that a little bit lighter, the tear duct area, and as it pulls into. The thing that's cool about this is that it's easier to, you don't see my face in the way when we're drawing, or my hands. I feel like I'm going to glaze it all now because I feel like some areas are getting too light and too dark. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, white, minimum opacity here. Gotten as dark as I could on his hair, so that's kind of not shaping up to look like him so much. So I'm going lighter first, and I'm going to come back in actually and do a slight bit of a darker glaze as well. When I say glaze, I change the opacity down to pretty minimal, and I scrape across the entire sketch together so it unifies areas a little bit better. And then I can see if there's an area I feel like it's too dark, I can kind of knock that into place with this overall kind of glaze. And it's really helpful to kind of pull the painting farther away from us, right, and compare. Again, hope you guys can see on the screen. So now I'm looking at, and I can judge. Let me see if I can even pull this about the same height and width as it is. So now I see how I kind of felt like I went too light. Now I can come back in and go darker. Yeah, right? No, bringing things into black and white is really helpful. Now I'm going to come in, and I feel like everything needs to go a little bit a little bit darker. Starting in on the forehead, that looks pretty good. All about how do we see. Even these are the collar now is too light. Can't really see the highlights in here. I'm painting Geest, Cornelis's brother from a different mother. This comes down and over. Sorry guys, I have a little bit of a chest cold today. And the one thing that the iPad kind of does miss out on a little bit is the texture, and so I try to get that with the under papers, which I'm going to eventually, soon, I'm going to take all these textures that I keep having, like that. See the texture of the board that I'm painting on? I'm going to post those onto the papers are already on the Patreon page. I'm going to post the textures. I'm photographing all these different textures that I use for alla prima painting that I'm going to bring into here so I can start painting oils on. Oils. I want to start doing more painting with color as well, because the color in here is really beautiful. So I can see myself painting using this sketch that I have here to paint on as well. So then it would be, I mean, that the title of the show, this program, episode 6, by the way, of drawing from art history would have to be painting from art history, right? Gonna get in some of this hair a little bit here. Anthony Van Dyck here. Artists are allowed to be a bit weird. The curve of the hair. Yeah, a little bit. I haven't gotten into the ear at all. It's kind of a fun thing. I'm probably gonna go for another 10 minutes or so. Stretch a little bit. Getting closer. This idea that I'm working on with right now, I'm gonna take a little bit of a break, stretch. This idea of Kaizen. Do you guys know that? I don't know if I've mentioned that before. This idea that as we're working, we're constantly going to be making the drawing better or painting better as we go, because we're going to start to see things better. If I go like this, now I can see the black and white version versus the color version, and it shows me that there are areas that this whole side of his cheek can go lighter, so that I can start to glaze things. Looking at the screen, I have a black and white version on my screen, but I see this whole side of the face can go lighter. And so it's this idea of composing areas which have a hierarchy of lights and darks based on what we're able to see and compare the whole of the, if we start getting into smaller areas within our drawing, or within shadows especially, we start to see shadows sometimes as darker than they actually are, because we're just focused on a small area of the painting versus the entirety of the painting. Oh, thanks, Nell. Yeah, I got this weird like cough thing going, dry cough, and it's kind of moved down into my chest today. But I'm taking, I knocked myself out with NyQuil last night, and which is horrible. I'm actually traveling to, I talked about this earlier, Dallas to teach, Fort Worth to teach painting from life. Hopefully, I start teaching on Friday though, so hopefully I'll kick it by Friday. Yeah, I like it when Rob does these things where he does question please. I love that in capital letters so I can see it. What does overworked mean? It may be difficult. I pressed enter too early. Overworked. I don't love that term overworked because I think that I'm constantly finding new information to put into a painting. And so I think that some people might find that as overworked. I remember I was doing, actually the painting that I got into back then it was the BP, Portrait Awards, was a painting of my mom. And I remember someone came to visit my studio and was hanging out with me. I was in Brooklyn at the time. And I was painting her hands. And I was painting her hands for, I don't know, probably maybe spent like a month on her hands or something crazy. And for me, I kept finding new colors, textures, things to add in to the painting. And someone's like, hey, do you know, like, you're still working on those hands. Like, do you think that the message has been sent already, of the painting? And I'm like, and I look back, I'm like, yeah, I think that they're in a good place. I think that it could be complete. But for me, painting for me really isn't about like creating product or entering shows or any of that stuff. All that stuff's great and we have to do it because we need to survive as artists and we need to get our work out there and all of that. But for me, the painting was for me to spend time with my mom. I didn't have the best relationship with her. I never saw her that often. So doing a painting of her was me having a way to spend time with her. And my mom's hands, especially, she passed away a few years ago now. But I remember when she passed away, I did a painting of our hands. The last time I was able to touch her hands in the hospital. And so just this idea of, like hopefully, your mom's hands are the first hands to hold you, and they're right at your level. They're covering your face, they're protecting you. And so I wanted to capture that within the painting, and I was just kind of dwelling in that moment of a painting that I didn't have to rush around to get other stuff done, and I could just focus on this painting. And so that's kind of, and if someone said that it was overworked, I don't know if it would be considered overworked for me. I don't think that, I feel like knowledge is always built on other knowledge. And so then I'm constantly able, I guess, to maybe, I hope, keep it kind of fresh, but still with new information that makes it better. More layers of color and interaction and brush strokes and texture that keep it from being quote unquote overworked. I don't know though. I bet there's a lot of people out there that probably think that my work is overworked. That's fine. For me, again, it's I try to play towards my temperament and the things that excite me about painting versus what other people say. I'm going to go into figuring out what's going on with this part of the eye now, because get a little bit more of his personality. There's this serration here in that upper lid. Yeah, that looks pretty interesting here. Excuse me. I'll try not to cough into the mic. I apologize. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man. My paper towel, my roll. I definitely think like painting for me is solace, And again, it's not about if it's a good painting or not. It's just you dwelling in that moment, and it's cathartic, I think, for me. Everyone's different. I don't do therapy yet, but painting is my therapy. this gets a little bit highlighted through here. See, we came to talk about Van Dyck and we're talking about art and life. This gets really beautiful through here. The texture of the paint on that upper brow. Oh, that's amazing. That she was there to gas you up. Hey Johnny, how's it going? Thanks, man. So kind of comparing, this is definitely wrong. I love to be able to draw arrows over my art because you can't really do that in a realistic, real medium. Thinking about, again, that flow of the hair, squinting. I don't know where I got, you guys have the black and white version and I have the color version here. It's so weird, I forgot I put that up on the screen. I'm gonna come in, and if I squint at the screen now, I think that I'm gonna come in now with the dark. I push and pull between the dark and the light here. And I think that as I squint, like some of this could be a little darker under in the mouth. I definitely do not have the mouth in right yet. I'm barely getting any. There we go. This comes over. Sorry if I'm quiet. I get quiet when I'm like a little bit concentrating. I don't know what's going on here. Getting closer there with the mouth. Gotta love a frill collar. Absolutely. I'm going to come in and I'm squinting at what you guys have on your screen and what I have. So, sure, I keep forgetting I have to go black and white. So using the chalk to, this is all too dark through here, kind of just glazing it again lighter. And also into the beard, mustache area. .51, and you know, it's only too late to start if it never happens. So this gets lighter through here. Lighter in the transitions, but I'm also thinking about how, when I go over it with the dark, how that's going to affect it. Because I'm going to unify everything. This area gets a little bit, this is a little too dark. Simplify. What this does, it kind of pushes everything into the correct values. It's funny, now his hair looks too light. Before it was too, I'm sorry, it looks too dark. Comparing it with the image. Again, thinking perceptually, this area up here too dark. So I'm going around and just knocking things in place value-wise. Where I see an area that could be too light or too dark, I just knock that in. Compared to the black and white reference on the screen. That's why I'm really looking intently at the screen versus my iPad. Okay, that looks pretty good. It's knocking some of the light of the frill. Just for fun. Because that's going to probably go a little bit darker. And that's just kind of fun. I'm going to enter competitions. If I win any, I can blame the judges for me being an artist. I think art pulls into the present moment, and it's very difficult to feel anxiety or sorrow when you are completely present, at least for me. I think that's a great idea. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's just a great escape being a painter. That's as long as you don't put a ton of pressure on yourself. I think that we tend to put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and then that kind of seeps into our happy place, our sacred space, and that's something that I don't love doing. Because this is a refuge, right? I haven't got part of the top of part of the ear. I gotta love ears. This pulls down and over, just blocking this in real fast. So drawing from art history has become the drawing therapy group, which is awesome. So I'm gonna come in again. Now I'm looking at our reference shot versus the silver or gray that I have here, and I can actually make this a little bit larger to match the scale. Cool. And I'm gonna slightly darken everything now. So bringing down the opacity, I have the dark chalk right here. Really light opacity, like 6%. And glazing over everything. Thinking about the forehead. This gets a little darker through here. This gets darker on the cheek. So instead of thinking about small details, I'm thinking about broad areas of value. This whole cheek can go a little bit. The side of the face on the nose. And squinting. Over the feather boa. Oh, thanks, Gary. I appreciate you being here. Hopefully you guys have your coffee. Do you guys like the promo things I've been making? I don't know if you guys have seen those. The shorts, the YouTube shorts. They're fun to do. Where I have to voice over. I have a friend that's actually like a professional musician, and she's done voiceover and stuff, so she was like, make sure you project and do this and do that. And I'm like, okay. And I did one voiceover in front of her, and I was super embarrassed because she was in my studio. We had she's a private student of ours, and she's a musician but wants to learn how to paint, which is pretty awesome. Simplifying, really getting those cheekbones in there, really beautiful stuff. Cornelis Geest. I'm probably butchering his name. A little bit of space in here for the nose. And so a lot of this is done from far away, right? I'm not zooming in so much anymore. I'm thinking about the painting from a value relationship perspective and how they kind of sit. No, it's different trying to capture something on the iPad versus in real life with real tactile medium. I see a little bit more light through here. On this part of the brow ridge. God, his anatomy was so on point. For being in his early 20s when he did this. With some texture in there. I'm gonna take a little coffee break. We've almost been going for 2 hours. I have to go now. Hey Rob, thanks for coming in and hanging out. Hey Nell, how's it going? Oh, and Rob, thanks for sharing, by the way, too. I hope everything gets better. I know what it's like to lose a parent, and it's rough. But you have support with us. Okay, man? And definitely drawing. Drawing is a good way to escape. This comes over, thinking about the shadow. This movement through here. Awesome. So we're almost at, definitely over like an hour and a half here. Becomes a sacred dance. Yes, I agree, Renola. Great, so I don't know. Let me just look at, I'm kind of comparing here. I feel like I could get more light in the eyes a little bit on this one side. Yeah, it's definitely on this side of the eye. It's so funny how the small stuff really bugs me. There's a little bit more fullness right through here. That's a little better. A little bit more curved. I'm a stickler. That looks a little better. And there's a little bit of shadowing. I'm going to switch to a pencil here. It's a little darker. There's that little red patch right through here. So I know we have a lot of folks from England, but Philadelphia Eagles are going to win, hopefully. They play the Dallas Cowboys. It's always Cowboys week, which is like one of our biggest rivals. And I'm going to be in Texas for it. Tomorrow. Hopefully you guys can kick this cold. Love some of the beard that's coming in over here. Awesome. Comparing it to the, what do we have here? Love the short promos. Thanks. Your guys' views and likes on those things and comments are huge. I feel like the channel, I have friends that are, most of my friends are artists or whatever, and then they're messaging me that they're actually seeing my stuff on YouTube, which is cool. I'm pretty stoked about that. So I think that because of you guys, it's helping get the word out. And this is just fun to hang and make sketches and learn about. I didn't realize that he did this in his early 20s and that this guy was a spice merchant. And
I knew he was a pupil of Rubens, but I don't really know that much about Dutch painting and Flemish art, which is something I want to dig into. Maybe I'll do a Rubens next. But I have taught in Belgium back in 2010. Talked a little bit about that, and that was a lot of fun. They would get deliveries from the Trappist monks of beer, and we just had like all the beer you could ever want. So it made me, I got really into this Westmalle Triple. It's a Belgian beer that the Trappist monks in the area, Portuguese, would make, and that was a fun workshop. Get that little light on the eye. I feel like I totally did not sculpt out these orbital cavities well enough to really get that sense of his character. Anyway, sketching from art history. Not doing it great, but I think it came out halfway decent. It's kind of a little bit more in my style. I feel like I want to like still unify it a little bit better here. Let me try one more layer of value. A little bit less here. As I squint, I'm like thinking this whole side of the cheek could be a little bit darker. That looks better. This could be a little darker as well. This side. This side. Go Eagles. Yeah, right. That's right, Nell. That was today's mug. Is my Philadelphia Eagles mug. My dad was an insane football fan. Mostly his team was the Jets because he was in the Air Force and he grew up in Long Island. But when I was a kid, he would take us to games like the Philadelphia Stars. I don't know if anyone's even heard of this Philadelphia Stars before. But at Vet Stadium, they'd play, and we'd get any tickets to any live football that we could when I was growing up. And then we settled in South Jersey near Philly when I was 5. So my dad retired from the Air Force, and I became a huge fan. Yeah, every Sunday, me and my best friend I'd go over his house and watch the Eagles games with his family. Friend Hoover. For my wedding reception dinner, both me and my best friend Hoover wore Eagles Hawaiian shirts because we got married on the beach, my wife and I. So, just nerdy stuff. In here. Awesome, guys. I think that's probably the best I'll be able to do, unless I were to spend another 20 hours on him. So there he is next to the colored version, full color. Awesome, guys. Thanks so much for attending, everyone that commented and asked questions. I really appreciate it. And let me flip the camera here. I'm going to go try and take some more medicine to feel better. I appreciate you guys all being here. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. I appreciate it. I love that they say smash that subscribe button. And I'm going to be here next Wednesday. I think I'm going to do a torso, maybe the Belvedere torso next week, which is a Greek statuary, which would be great. And we'll learn more about that because they actually don't know who actually sculpted that. But there's a few theories out there, which are interesting. And yeah, I want to thank everybody who's helping to support
this channel and my work through the Patreon page. I really appreciate you guys. It's amazing. I'm hoping to get another video, at least a raw video, out to you guys, hopefully tonight or tomorrow, and then another video on YouTube. Hopefully Friday afternoon. I'm traveling a little bit, so I'll see you guys over there later today with, I'm going to show you guys the actual charcoal drawing I did in London probably 15 years ago, 10 years ago, that I did from the actual piece. It's not very good. But yeah, guys, thank you again for attending this Drawing from Art History, episode 6, Anthony van Dijk's Portrait of Cornelis van der Geest. Awesome, guys. Take care, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye.